Hey, good to see you again. The factory sent over the parts that were looking good on the rig. They're being fitted as we speak. Have a look at the report.
What's going on, guys? Ira here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode, episode number 64 today for the Russian Grand Prix in Season 4. And after a fair few episodes of not seeing Chris, we only saw him at the beginning of the season, this Season 4. We've finally seen him again, and he's got some great news, actually. So, in your face, anyone who commented below about just wait until Chris comes with some bad news, it's all good news for now. And, you know, Red Bull did a lot of work on the quality control and efficiency on pretty much every department. I think they've at least got one, and I think they've got like 4 on the chassis side of things. So, looking good. So we've got that brand new upgrade that we installed at the end of the last episode, which is the front wing downforce on the car. So obviously that may not be the kind of obvious choice for us, being Red Bull. Obviously Red Bull in real life known for its good aerodynamics, its good chassis, but really in reality we didn't actually do too much work on the aero as a team. We had a lot of upgrades to do on the aero front, and also with higher downforce added to the car, we can actually run a lower set of wings and have the balance still fine, and that will improve the straight line speed, in fact, because we can run the front wing a bit lower. It means we can run the rear wing a little bit lower and balance everything out, and the car will be a bit more stable in the corner still, because you obviously don't want too high front wing compared to the rear wing and vice versa. And so the balance will stay the same, and we're able to maybe run a little bit less drag, obviously, and a little bit less downforce overall on the car with still maintaining the performance, if you get what I mean. So that's going to be very, very useful here at Russia. But you can see we get a brand new rival as we work our way through practice, and then just after practice we got this update for Sebastian Vettel, finally, because we had an entire championship battle pretty much. I mean, half a championship battle, because really we only became championship rivals halfway through Season 3, but we had the entire half season of fighting each other and constantly trying to overtake Vettel and get ahead of him, and we've never had him as a rival. Of course, the first time we had a major player as a rival was Valtteri Bottas at the end of last season, so good to see now we've kind of been given one of the big guys. Obviously, that does mean that the ante is kind of upped in terms of what we have to do now that we have Vettel. Basically, there's nowhere to hide. If Vettel's always going to try and maybe get pole position, the Ferrari car is still, no matter what the performance has been like and the good luck has been like, that car on paper is still the fastest car. So we've got it all to do in terms of constantly trying to beat Vettel, and I have a feeling we may lose this rivalry, just like we lost to Bottas. Actually, it was quite a close rivalry between myself and Bottas, but we actually lost that in the end. But anyway, we've moved into qualifying, then quite swiftly on into Q1, right at the end of our first and only flying lap in Q1. Come across the line, that is going to be good enough for us to get it into Q2. No dramas there. The only man using super softs was Kimi, which is a bit of an odd decision in Q1. So Kimi obviously going for a harder set of allocations of tyres. I generally just go for balanced. I don't really even bother changing it too much often, because it really just gives you a good enough kind of selection of tyres as it is. So now moving into Q2, you can see clearly still on the ultra soft tyres, as obviously Russia, like upcoming in 2 episodes time, Monaco, is a one-stop, bog standard. That's the default and the fastest way around the circuit, a one-stop. So no point going on the second softest tyre. May as well qualify on the fastest one in every single session and really just get used to the car's setup on the ultra soft. So we get through into Q3, then ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. He was lagging a little bit behind in Q2, down in P8. We're in P5. You can see Vettel quite close behind, so good stuff to actually see Vettel quite close. But obviously we've known the Ferraris and the Mercedes cars love to turn up the wick in Q3 when it really gets down to the kind of nitty-gritty, as it were. So we're on our flying lap then for Q3. Pretty decent first few turns. I was about to say turn 1, but it's technically turn 2, but I'm probably going to keep on mistakenly calling that turn 1, because the official turn 1 is really not a turn, let's be honest. It's just a kink. I've had this argument before in a video. I'm going to keep on saying it because it's just so true, but we come across the line anyway. It's been a pretty okay lap. Wasn't amazing. The last sector, I opted for 4th gear to try and get traction around that sector, and it worked quite well compared to my teammate. We outqualify him, but just generally I was hoping for a bit better, and to see Hulkenberg there in P4 was a little bit disheartening in terms of I thought we could have at least matched him, but at least we've beaten our teammate, and so we'll have to see how we go in the race. I have set the car up for a little bit less drag, so hopefully this car can overtake in a straight line around Russia. But you can see exactly what I meant by Vettel got pole position. So, straight away, my first outing against him as my rival, and I've been thoroughly beaten by him. So So it is going to be a tough rivalry officially to try and, you know, conquer and beat over the 30 points, I think it is, that you have out of 30. But obviously, it factors in the race, and, you know, as it's been going, Vettel's been getting somewhat unlucky. Obviously, he did the job at what was the Bahrain Grand Prix, but apart from that, it's been a very shaky kind of on-off season for Ferrari as a whole. You just never know how they're going to perform. So looking forward to the race. Low tyre wear, so that means we can just push flat out. And, you know, in the Renault and the Toro Rosso in previous seasons, that may have not been fantastic as an opportunity. I'd rather have a bit of strategy play in there. But with the Red Bull car, obviously we know from Australia, when I was able to push flat out and just really push the limits of the car around the track, it really came good. So looking forward to a race like here at Russia, where I can just kind of really get this sweat on and try and push as hard as I can. So let's look at the full grid then, and then let's go to the race.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, and a Red Bull, Grosjean, Ricciardo, Magnussen, and Jolyon Palmer, Massa, Sainz, Daniel Kvyat, and Perez, Ocon, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, and Pascal Wehrlein. Van Dorn and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So it's showtime here then at Russia. Looking at the strategy screen, of course, that one stop I mentioned in terms of anything we're changing. Again, the fuel filling up a little bit over excess for what we need. Again, kind of as we've gone through each round, I've kind of filled up less and less overboard because I've really found out how really this car works with the fuel efficiency, and just clever little things like putting it in lean mix just for a few seconds in some corners really brings back a whole chunk of fuel that I can use in rich mix then. So not filling up way too much. Obviously, it's going to be an advantage if our car's that little bit lighter at this start of the race. Maybe we can try and make some overtakes towards what is going to be that turn 2, obviously that big braking zone, turn 1 just being that kink. So looking good and ahead to this race. Also, you may have noticed, I haven't actually mentioned it so far in this video, that the Red Bull that I'm driving looks a little bit different. You can see every single decal on the car is in pink. Now, of course, this is being uploaded on the same day as the real-life USA Grand Prix in 2017, and if you are actually keeping up with the world of F1, at the USA Grand Prix, they have gone pink in the paddock, and they've got lots of different pink aspects to the USA Grand Prix, like the actual pit lane strip. They've got drivers wearing gloves. They've got parts of the cars, in the Renault's case, painted in pink, and it's all in a bid to support the Breast Cancer Awareness Month and also Drive for the Cause, which is the specific kind of campaign they're running here for the USA Grand Prix. So I thought, in homage to that, I would plaster up the Red Bull in pink then. So that's why the car looks very different, if you were wondering from qualifying. Anyway, let's get towards this race then. We've got 27 laps ahead of us here around Sochi for the Russian Grand Prix, so let's get into it as we go to 5 red lights then for round number 4 of season 4 here. As the 5 red lights go out, we're underway from P6 on the grid, and it is a good start for us, an even better one for Nico Hülkenberg up ahead as he goes to the inside. Bit of contact made there as they do a bit of ping pong between Raikkonen and also Lewis Hamilton on the right hand side, losing out majorly as Hülkenberg tries to maybe even send it down the inside of Vettel for a moment then, but Hamilton gets back. They go toe to toe. Bit more contacts made between Hamilton and Vettel, but Vettel keeps it in P1. Hamilton then in second place. We slot in P4 behind Hülkenberg, and Raikkonen has been the biggest loser on the outside, as well as Valtteri Bottas, and now we try and send it down the inside of our former teammate. A little bit of contact there. No love lost between myself and Hülkenberg as we go side by side then into sector 2, trying to make this overtake work, but Hülkenberg has a much better line, and now Raikkonen right up the gearbox, maybe might title round as we're under pressure now into the next corner. Raikkonen's got his nose down the inside. He makes a dive bomb. I see that in my mirrors. Give him the room, and that sent us wide actually, and so we're going to have to try and send it to the inside just like Raikkonen did to maybe re-overtake him. Didn't work out there for us this time round. And then through the next right-hander, carrying a lot of momentum through that corner, probably my best corner around this circuit, onto the main back straight. We should be able to get in the slipstream of Raikkonen, and with us running lower wings than we did last season, definitely going to gain some time here. We're in rich mix as well, and here we go as Raikkonen sparks away, so clearly his setup running a little bit low on the ride height than he would want to off a heavy fuel, scraping across the ground. That won't help him a little bit in a straight line. We managed to hang it around the outside then, and we're up the place once again and in P4 to chase down that man just going off the screen. P3, Nico Hülkenberg doing a fabulous job after his really fantastic start down to turn 1, and it looks like ahead, looks like Vettel and Hamilton are getting away from Hülkenberg in a little bit of a world of their own, although you can see on this next panning shot, we are still all in the same camera shot, P1 to P5, and Hamilton now trying to move around the outside for P1 for the lead of the Grand Prix, and Vettel has been shoved off on the right, a little bit more contacts made, and Hamilton barges way past into P1, Vettel down to P2, but you can see now, due to them going side by side and effectively losing each other kind of time into that corner, Hulkenberg's right up the gearbox now of his fellow compatriot, the German, and so maybe could we see Hulkenberg making a move for P2? That would be absolutely fantastic. So the Renault definitely going very well, at least Hulkenberg's Renault. I can't speak too much for Palmer, and here goes Hulkenberg indeed round the outside of Vettel for P2. This is awesome. Hulkenberg, they go toe to toe, and Vettel's going to lose out once again in the same fashion. He got overtaken by Hamilton. Hulkenberg taps Vettel's front left tyre there and just kind of shoves him off a little bit into turn 3. So everyone's being quite feisty with Vettel, and maybe I should take a leaf out of those two books and maybe try and overtake in that similar sort of fashion, although we may be able to try and overtake a little bit earlier on into the lap, on lap 4, as we go on towards the end of sector 2 into sector 3, down the main straight. DRS wide open, rich mix flowing. Can we go down the inside? Vettel goes to the outside, which will then turn to the inside, so that's the defensive line, but Vettel has locked up very, very poorly on the front right there, and you can see that's actually a very easy overtake for us. So Vettel, our rival, to say he beat us quite thoroughly with pole position, much like the rest of the season, like I mentioned. He's pretty much driving like he has been for most of the season, apart from Bahrain. If you forget that, pretty much that's how he's been driving, just to lock up another mistake there. And he actually did the same in Bahrain, remember though, to be fair to him and to be fair to us in terms of talking about his driving style, because he did have that double lockup when Bottas overtook him into turn 1 at Bahrain. So just generally Vettel, I don't know, ever since I've kind of flustered him since the second half of season 3, it's almost like psychologically he's kind of been like just ruffled around the feathers a little bit, and his AI just isn't driving the same, or that's just me trying to talk it up. If we're breaking the fourth wall a little bit, I just don't know what on earth's going on with Vettel's AI. Sometimes the coding's a little bit funny, but anyway, let's get back to not breaking the fourth wall. Let's go back to talking about this fight between myself and Nico Hulkenberg. Now we're in P3 chasing after P2. You can see Hamilton not too far down the road, so both of us equally catching Hamilton at this stage, but I'm just unable to get close enough to overtake that Renault car. He's got some very, very slippery setup on at the moment, so just a couple of laps pretty much just stuck behind him then in P3, and now Hamilton comes in, Hulkenberg will come in, and that's my cue to continue on, try and get some clean air now as Vettel comes in as well, and hopefully with this clean air we can set some good lap times now as we go for basically a hot lap for an in lap, and then we can hopefully try and get an overcut and maybe try and overtake at least one of these guys, which would probably be Hulkenberg. Let's see though, in the pit lane, Vettel strapped on Supersofts as you would imagine, and it looks like I think Hamilton is through, and where is Hulkenberg? There he is, he's held up just like I thought would be the case, so that's why I wanted to wait up and watch the pit lane action, because I knew that was probably going to happen there. We saw it at China, remember, the Renault team were unable to do the pit stop in time, and we managed to jump them in the pit lane then, and that's happened a few times before, so just generally you can see the difference. Although that Renault, the car may be good, the pit crew hasn't really improved too much, and that's still very much a kind of midfield kind of pit crew versus the Red Bull guys, the Ferrari and the Mercedes guys, as you would imagine, obviously. Although as a player you can technically obviously change that. You do get the core competencies for the pit stop times, but obviously that will reset itself once you leave the team. So although I probably earned the competencies for Renault in the previous 2 seasons, that probably all I'm imagining gets reset. I think I would imagine. I don't think the game's clever enough to keep those competencies there for the pit crew, even though it would make sense because the pit crew doesn't really get affected by you, but that's the mechanic of the game anyway. So we come in to the pit stop then, obviously the same set of Supersofts that everyone else is strapped on. It's a one stop and it's a bog standard one at that. So we come down the pit lane now, and now the question is, where are these cars? I can see the Ferrari going through. There's Hamilton just going off in the flashing screen, then Vettel, and then you can see in the distance the yellow Hulkenberg is behind us. So we have made the overcut work and we have overtaken Hulkenberg, although we can see that also Vettel vice versa has made the undercut work on us. So it's kind of half and half, kind of balanced out. We're still in P3, but we're ahead of the Renault for now. As we move on to lap 14 then though, Hulkenberg with DRS, probably rich mix at this stage as well, you would imagine, squeezes us very aggressively towards the wall. Oh, very, very close to the left hand side. If Nico did squeeze me anymore, I definitely would have been hitting that wall as we got on the curbing very, very early. So Nico definitely trying to make sure that he forced me to the outside then and wanted to take the best line he could into turn 2. And you can see that also briefly had to look behind me to make sure I was defending from Raikkonen, just like we saw back at Bahrain when Hamilton closed up right to me whilst we were battling Ocon. I was just a little bit wary of maybe the Ferrari just coming up and, cheekily kind of overtaking us while we're too focused on Hulkenberg, like a lot of the time the AI can do. They kind of just get caught napping, looking at the cars ahead rather than the car behind, which is usually me trying to, cheekily go down the inside or the outside. But now we move on later into the Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel now is chased down Lewis Hamilton and he's trying to get revenge to re-overtake him for the lead of the Grand Prix. And much like Hamilton did, Vettel does the exact same move, swooping around the outside of turn 2 and shoving him off in the exit towards turn 3. P3, and he's up back into P1 then. So Vettel finding some speed, so maybe, I don't know, maybe put it down to lean mixture earlier on the Grand Prix, and now he's got a rich mix back to use. I'm not too sure, but it looks like he now has the pace to kind of attack now and kind of control this race. Meanwhile, talking about the other Ferrari who is attacking me at the moment on lap 14 as we go through to the end of sector 2. We just about defend to the inside very calmly, you know, just keep it down the inside, go a little bit deep into the corner, just cut off that racing line for Raikkonen's nose cone there, and he has to stay behind us in P5, and we're still in P4, trying to desperately get our composure back to maybe chase back down Hulkenberg, because obviously he did overtake us, but we should have the decent pace, I feel, around this circuit. And now we open the DRS now as we go on to lap 17 with 10 laps to go. We are closing back up to Hulkenberg, so kind of like the ebb and flow of this Grand Prix at the moment, you know, yo-yoing about. Hulkenberg overtakes me, I overtake him now potentially as we go into the end of sector 2 as he sparks away. We're just unable to get close enough, so a little bit of deja vu from stint 1, so that's a little bit worrying that I'm getting again close but just not close enough. So we need to maybe try something else, maybe in a different sector, try and close up if we can and use rich mix a little bit tactically. You can see there we're in standard mixture as we're playing around with the fuel. We're a little bit critical on fuel, so I don't want to use it all in one go. Anyway, moving back to the fight for P1, and absolutely great to see it still is very much a fight for P1 is how Hamilton with DRS down the inside into turn 2, Vettel on the outside there. Oh, Hamilton's locked up, double lock up, the hand of anchor goes up, and Hamilton has made contact with Vettel, and that was due to the double lock up, so Vettel will be kind of furious in the car, but at the same time he's managed to keep P1 there, though that was very, very close. Hamilton with a very uncharacteristic mistake there into turn 2, just bottled that potential move. That would have been actually quite easy if he didn't lock up then, and so he's going to have to stay in P2 in the slipstream of that Ferrari car. Meanwhile, back to us, we're chasing down Hulkenberg for P3, and this was actually on the same lap as that Hamilton move there, so you can see in the distance that was Hamilton going for that move, so almost like a kind of replay slash live action at the moment as we kind of look through on our POV on that same lap, lap 19, and we go down the inside of Hulkenberg then onto the exit of turn 2 into turn 3, and we're up into P3, but you can see clearly there Hamilton up the road still in P2, but that was the same exact lap, just very difficult to show the two moves at the same time when they're happening simultaneously. But as we move on to lap 21 then, so 2 laps later, and Hamilton is actually falling back quite drastically from Vettel, so it's almost like, just like when Vettel got overtaken by Hulkenberg at the very start of the Grand Prix, it's almost like at the moment in this Grand Prix at least, when the car gets overtaken, they kind of just slow down a little bit, and they kind of get, I know, they lose a lot of momentum, maybe the dirty air kicks in or something like that, but, you know, Hamilton losing time just like Vettel did once he got overtaken by Nico, so we've got a good opportunity to maybe overtake our fellow Brit and overtake a Mercedes car this afternoon to get up into a great P2, which would be a lovely 18 points, and of course, compared to Nico Hulkenberg, who are matching on points now from the Bahrain Grand Prix, that would be great for us, and also Vettel, remember, was only 3 points back from us, so if he was to win this race and we got 18 points in second place, he would take the lead of the Drivers' Championship, so trying to do the best job we can to try and match him. We do go very easily on the left-hand side, almost pedestrian-like around the outside of Hamilton, as he kind of just almost accepts the fact that I was going to overtake him there, and so we're up into P2. Now we've got clean air. Let's see, do I even think about maybe, do we have any sort of pace to maybe catch Vettel? Do I even fancy that kind of idea? We'll have to see. We'll give it a go. You guys know me. I'll give it a go and push as hard as I can to see if we can, but as we move on through the laps then, Hulkenberg is the one on the move really at the moment as we move on board with him now, opening DRS, rich mix. You can see he's gaining quite rapidly on the Mercedes car, but not quite enough in this second phase of the straight after the kink, just quite not enough. You can see Hamilton does have DRS off me, so he's still within 1 second, even though I'm trying to push as hard as I can to break that 1 second and try and chase after Vettel. Just not happening at the moment, and unfortunately I'm kind of hindering Hulkenberg's kind of progress, as it were, because I'm helping Hamilton now with DRS as we move into lap 25 with 3 laps to go, or 2 in a third really, as we go into the last sector of lap 25. Vettel nowhere to be seen really, just off your screen there, and you can see a lock up on the left front. That's not going to help us out. We have to go defensive to Hamilton, and Hamilton has to get shoved off a little bit, and we keep P2 for now. No contact made there, but Hamilton had to lift off for sure as I went a little bit deep and wide into that section there. But you can see, just I don't have the pace. I don't have the pace to catch Vettel. I would like to, but I just don't, and that's just the Ferrari car finally kind of, Vettel finally finding the groove in this Grand Prix, flexing the muscles of that downforce heavy Ferrari car, and that very powerful Ferrari car in a straight line as well. So he gets first place, but it will be a pretty damn fantastic P2 for us here at the Russian Grand Prix. Really, really thoroughly enjoyable race. That was a lot of fun, just pushing flat out there. Really nice stuff there with Raikkonen, Hulkenberg especially as well, and Vettel at the start of that race. But there you go, he does win his second race of this season. So to say, I was slagging him off a little bit, to be fair. Let's be honest here. I was slagging him off a little bit at the very start of that race. Fair play. He's got the win, and he's kind of brought it back. So looks like, you know, Vettel's still got his mojo from halfway through season 3. He just seems to be quite inconsistent at the moment. So he's kind of like an on and off switch. So at the moment he's very much on with another win there to match the one he got at Bahrain. But we come home with a really good second place. But like I mentioned, with him getting 25 points, I get 18. He was only 3 points behind us. He does get up into the lead of the Drivers' Championship. I stay put in second place. Hulkenberg is the one that loses out mostly and moves from first to third place there. You can see still very, very close, and Hamilton now overtakes Bottas, and Hamilton and Bottas look like they're pushing each other really to perform in that Mercedes car, and Raikkonen at the moment moves up the order up into P6 finally. So finally now you've got that top 6 of the 2 Ferraris, 2 Mercedes, myself and Hulkenberg there. So really, as I mentioned last episode, really awesome to see so many of these different cars here, and here's hoping really for the sake of the kind of videos in the championship that likes of Raikkonen and the 2 Mercedes cars can kind of buck up and perform a little bit, and that will make things very, very tasty indeed. But we move on to the constructors. Red Bull Racing now up into second place now. Ricciardo did a decent enough job. We didn't see anything of Ricciardo that entire race. He just quietly went about his business and finished behind Raikkonen, I think it was. So with those 2 points added up from my second place and his what was, I think, 6th or 7th place, we get up into second then to overtake Renault finally, and Renault just slipping back a little bit with Palmer not quite matching Hulkenberg's standards there. So you can see the cracks are forming a little bit for Renault. You can see Hulkenberg's able to still perform, Palmer not so much. So they're going to need to probably upgrade their car quite soon if they want to keep up with the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, and ourselves in Red Bull. Obviously, we have plenty of resources. And speaking of resources, looking at the R&D tree, just kind of debating in my head what I actually spend my points on now. Did quite, I think, long and hard about maybe the engine upgrade, maybe fuel efficiency. You can see I could afford actually a major upgrade there. But in the end, then looking to the other side of the tree, the chassis, we're second place in the chassis development race at the moment. We've got obviously so much quality control there, so it's going to be very hard for those parts to fail. So I think that's going to be mostly the area where we develop. I've kind of said that before, but you know, every single race I kind of constantly debate in my head because you know you have results, you kind of see how it went in the race, and your mind starts thinking, okay, maybe we do need to develop the engine. But in the end, I think just looking at the paper stats from last season, the chassis weight was such a big difference, and also the drag reduction, which we will hopefully actually get down to as well on the aerodynamic part of the tree. But guys, that's been this Russian Grand Prix episode 64 of this F1 2017 career mode. If you guys have enjoyed it, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.